Hey friend, welcome to the Feminine Initiate podcast, a space for online coaches, creatives, and visionaries ready to do the thing while reclaiming their feminine power, manifesting their desires, and creating the impact they know they're here to make. Let's get into it. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're having an amazing week so far. Today, I have an incredible episode to share with you. It was a beautiful conversation that I had with Deimante Ona. She's a sacred feminine guide and manifestation expert who helps modern women reclaim their power, heal visibility wounds, and manifest wealth and success without burnout or playing small. Blending ancient wisdom with modern embodiment practices, she guides women to break free from scarcity and self-doubt, creating lives that feel expansive, soul-aligned, and deeply nourishing. Deimante is known for her raw, relatable, and no-fluff approach to spirituality, taking manifestation beyond mindset shifts into deep energetic transformation, subconscious healing, and sacred feminine wisdom. Through her work, she helps women ditch the hustle, trust their intuitive power, and embody the success they desire on their own terms. This is such a great conversation, and I know you're going to get so much out of it. This is especially for you if you are an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, or a podcaster, and you face visibility fears. You have fear in sharing your story and showing up authentically and sharing your opinions and your thoughts with others. Today, we are going to address where the origins of this fear could come from and ways that you can heal it so that you can truly step into your power and make the impact that you know deep down at a soul level you are here to make. And so without any further ado, let's dive right into today's episode. Please help me welcome Deimante Ona. Hi, Deimante. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hi, Jess. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. And I really want to dive into visibility fears because I know this is something that you really help people with. And I feel like in the online space, especially, the visibility fears could really come up. And there's so many of us who are afraid to really put ourselves out there. And who's going to see us in this online space that is just who knows where that's going to go, right? So that can cause us a lot of fears. So I'd love to be able to maybe have you share some ways that you have overcome it and how you help others that you work with overcome it. But to start off, let's get into talking about more of like the root of where did these visibility fears really come from? And I know you talk about the witch wounds and some of the past witch hunts, way back in our ancestor days. And so can you share where did the origins come from this fear?
Oh my gosh, yes. So much to say about that. So, what to start with, I'm gonna say that's actually been one of my personal biggest things that I have had to overcome. And I will share more about that, but it's a fear that I know so intimately. And I think you're right. I feel like as soon as you decide I'm gonna have a business, that fear kind of just like slaps you in the face. It's like right there for most of us. And I love what you said about the origin of it. So there's gonna be for different people, if they're thinking about their life, there may be like different times where that fear started. And all of us have different journeys. So like for me, like I have conscious memories like the first time I was rejected for something as a child, and all of a sudden that I'm not good enough, like this fear started. But for us as women, like you said, it actually goes so much deeper than that with something called the witch wound. And for anybody listening, you do not have to be a witch, identify as a witch, even like the word, in order to have this fear. In fact, almost all of us collectively all across the world have this fear. For some of us, I think depending on our ancestral lineage and potentially our past lives, it can be more prevalent than others because it may be more linked to us. But essentially, it started with the witch hunts because thousands, possibly even millions, they don't really know, women were executed for being in their power, for being different, for being outspoken, for being connected to nature, for being connected with the old ways and practicing the old goddess-based religions, which were actually present before Christianity. And most of the women that were persecuted, they weren't even witches. They were midwives, healers, herbalists, women that didn't want to marry, and they were killed because men were scared of their power. It was a means of control, and that imprint of essentially, if you were noticed, you were in real danger. Like nowadays, our fears, they're different. It's like we're scared someone's gonna judge us. But back then, someone was literally scared for their life. It was a very life or death situation, threat. And if you can think about it, if you can imagine, like, all of those years ago, if we can imagine a family of women, maybe a mother witnessed her mother being burnt at the stake. What is she going to say to her daughters? She's going to tell her to be quiet, don't do this anymore, speak this way, don't speak this way, dress this way, don't dress this way, to keep her daughter safe. And so this messaging that we have to fit in, that we have to be nice, polite girls, that we can't be too different, it's encoded in our DNA. And this trauma, it's collective, it's all over the world, it's palpable. If you've ever felt like, who am I to say this? Or who am I to do that? Or what will people think? Or what if they judge me? Or what if people don't like me? Or what if someone talks about me? If you've ever had that fear, if you've ever felt your voice shake, if you ever felt anxiety kind of in your sacral and your stomach, that's the witch wound. And like I said, you don't have to be someone who resonates with the word witch for that to be present. And now for my own journey and how I discovered this. So it actually started when I first started my podcast. And I remember I was about to, so a little bit more background. Most of my life, I really spent in the spiritual closet. So I've always been someone who's been witchy and spiritual, into crystals and astrology and energy and manifestation, but I did so very quietly, very much in private, and I never understood why, but it didn't feel safe. Like I didn't want to be seen as like the woo-woo weirdo or whatever. So I hid that part of myself for most of my life. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, I feel like I went through like a very deep spiritual deepening, like almost like the next stage of my awakening, where I just realized that like it's no longer sustainable to not be all of me, and I just need to do it. I just need to rip off the band-aid and just step into the role that I came here to play. And part of that was to empower other women to be all that they're here to be. So I started a podcast where I was talking and teaching things like manifestation and energy and just things that, they're becoming more and more normalized now, but they definitely have never been. And I remember I was about to press publish on my podcast, and I physically started to shake, and I felt nauseous. I felt sick. It was so visceral, like it was so in my body. Then I remember that was the very first time that I consciously almost like took a step back, and I asked myself, what is this? Why do I feel this? Why do I feel like someone's about to kill me when I'm just pressing publish on my podcast? It was so powerful. It was so strong. And I started doing some somatic movement. I sat in ceremony. I sat in ritual, which I can talk a little bit more about. And then that was the start of me starting to research the witch wound, because it felt like it felt like it just was something so much deeper than anything I've experienced in this lifetime. And that's how I discovered it. And that's how I realized that it actually affects almost every single woman in this world to some degree. And this work is so powerful. Like healing this can unlock everything for us.
Absolutely. Wow, that's powerful. And to think that podcasting was really what allowed you to discover. I mean, I always tell people that podcasting is a great form of personal development. I mean, it's what it was for me. It has benefited my personal life in addition to my business. But the way that you're sharing it, you're almost taking it to a whole other level of really, discovering some of these wounds that you have. So at that point, what did you do? Did you hit publish, or did you take a step back and was like, okay, wait, I'm going to start healing this witch wound before publishing?
So I felt I was gonna throw up, but I did it anyway.
Okay. Okay.
So I did hit publish, and then I went really deep into this work because I realized I was like, okay, before that, most of my work had been on healing things like money wounds. And then I was like, okay, now this is gonna be the next part of my journey. And then I really focused on, yeah, healing the visibility wounds.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to share how were you able to go within and heal that witch wound? Because it is something that is more ancestral. Some of the work that I do, and I'm just curious to how you do this, because I use a technique, neural energetic encoding, where we are going back onto our timeline to really be able to see some of the things that happen, even if it is in past lives. And then from there, we're able to clear it and take the learnings back to this present day. What kind of techniques did you use to really start healing that witch wound?
Yeah, so I'm trained in timeline techniques,
Okay.
which sounds like it's very similar to what you do, maybe under a different name.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a very, very powerful tool. I personally don't necessarily take women. I don't feel like they have to see what happened in order to heal it, because sometimes by if let's say if we had a lifetime where we were like brutally murdered, sometimes that can re-traumatize us. So
Mhm.
it kind of depends, but energetically, totally. So it was a big combination. So I feel like it has to be a combination of kind of subconscious, conscious, and then like energetic soul work. So I've used tools such as tapping. I'm trained in those tools as well. So tapping, hypnotherapy. So I would like hypnotize myself, write scripts, kind of like describing the reality that I wanted and how I wanted to feel. I would listen to those before I fell asleep. So I also walked a priestess path. So for me, almost daily, certainly weekly part of my practice is I sit in ceremony. So that can look in different ways, but essentially just sitting in ceremony, sitting in deep meditation, and allowing things to come up, what wants to come up, what wants to be healed, and kind of like moving through that energy. Because I feel like a lot of it is really energetic, leaving offerings for my healed ancestors that needed that somatic work, because like I said, for me it's like very, very visceral in my body, so it feels like there's just a lot of this stagnant stuck energy. So moving my body, using just what sounds like really simple and so accessible to anybody listening, but it's so powerful. It's like sacred dance, like putting on some music that makes you move your body. Make sure, like, if you feel uncomfortable, close your blinds so no one can see you when you're alone at home. Just letting your body move with the intention that you're shaking that out. Yeah, I think that those are some of the main ones. Yeah, so timeline therapy was definitely really powerful. Not therapy, timeline healing. Timeline healing, ceremony work. So I feel like it's gonna look kind of different for every single woman, because and I just want to mention that sometimes it's not something we can heal in just like one session, because it's so deep. And healing is not linear. So as you may know, right? So you may be able to, like, you may have a session with a practitioner, or you may sit in a ceremony that's being led by someone, or with yourself, depending if you're experienced, and you may think, okay, I can do this now. I don't feel anxious. But then the next time you do something bigger, where you have to be even bolder, where you're going to be even more visible, there are next stages that get unlocked. So.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point, because every time we get to another point, we're always going to be unlocking new things or discovering new things about ourselves. We're never going to be this finished package. And like you're saying, we
Yeah.
heal the visibility wound, and now we can go and speak in front of a room of, 100,000 people and be totally fine. Like that'll be maybe something else that we need to work on. And so it's a continuous process. How would you say, like, the success that you have in your business today and with your podcast, like when you and I were chatting, it's been about 3 years since you've had your podcast out, by learning to heal some of those visibility wounds, have you gotten places in your business, in your podcast, in your personal life that you would have never thought that you would have been, or even would have been possible before?
Yeah, oh my gosh, absolutely. Because when we heal this wound, it's like we become a different version of ourselves. I feel like for me, I truly believe that we become a version of ourselves that we actually came here to be. Like every single one of us. And if you're listening to this, you're meant to listen to this episode. I feel like every single one of us, we have a vision. Maybe we decide whatever we want to manifest, something big, something we don't have yet. In order to get that, we have to become the person who already has it. And that person is going to be different than who we are now. But I believe it's like almost like a journey to actually be who we came here to be. This journey of remembering, right? I feel like our highest self, our soul is like, we are so powerful. We are confident. We know that we are enough. We know that we are magical, but we forget somewhere along the way. And yeah, so one of the things is I started my own mystery school, which I would have never, if someone told me 4 years ago, you're gonna have your own mystery school and you're gonna lead women through this beautiful program of embodiment, you're gonna lead them through ceremonies and rituals and energy work and all these things, I would have been like, no, no way, like I'm not good enough to do this, like I don't know enough, like I could never do that, like thoughts like that. That's the witch wound. And by healing that, I'm like, now I'm able, by me being in my own power, I'm able to show up and help other women remember theirs. And the results that my clients have, it's like we do, we kind of they come into the mystery school thinking, okay, this is going to help me manifest my dreams, but in the end it's like so much more than that, because they become more liberated, they become more authentic to who they actually are, and not in the way that I'm saying we're not authentic as in we're two-faced, but more so I feel like sometimes we're only authentic to our true selves as much as we feel comfortable to be with that, with those fears playing. So if you wipe away those fears, all of a sudden you may find that actually you're a lot bolder, maybe you're a lot wilder, maybe you're a lot louder, or whatever that may mean. So it's kind of like, yeah, I would have never ever done that before if I hadn't healed that, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. You had mentioned earlier, like you mentioned a number of techniques that you had practiced to really be able to heal those fears and heal those wounds. And I know that you are a sacred feminine guide as well. And I feel like sometimes when we get into personal development, we can be following someone else's protocol and like all of these rituals or all of these techniques. And we're thinking, like, okay, this is it. This is what I have to do. This is the step by step. But there is so much power. And like you were saying, doing what feels right to you, like really tapping into that feminine energy to understand like which tool or which ritual or which practice would actually be most beneficial to me, which one feels better to me. So how do you recommend to some some women, let's say, where they are kind of cut off to that sacred feminine within them, thinking that, oh, I just need to like do this work, I need to do this practice, like why isn't this working? What would you say to them to really be able to reconnect to their feminine energy and follow their intuition as to what practice, what ritual would be truly best for them?
I think it's human nature to want to just be like, give me step by
Mhm.
step instructions for me to build my dream life. And the thing is, like you said, someone else's step by step instructions may not work for you. So I'm very conscious of that. So in my mystery school, I don't really I don't really have like, you need to do this and then you do that and then you do this and then you do that. As soon as someone comes in, I would say, really, and this answer is sometimes I think may it's not what people want to hear, but I'm like, you need to sit with yourself. So for me, like ceremony has been the most life-changing thing ever, as well as for my clients. So you have the every single person, we all have the answers within us already, but usually we can't hear them. So that's why I would say like carving time out. So whether that's you come and you work with a guide like someone like me or someone like Jess with different tools or someone else, or whether you just light a candle, sit with yourself, give yourself space, and you light a candle and you breathe. Or maybe you journal, or maybe you lay down and you meditate, or you breathe and you sit outside with your feet and your womb on the earth, and just cutting out the noise, the external noise, and creating space in your schedule to just be present with yourself. And I feel like that's when our own personal next steps unlock. And we don't always get a clear, okay, now you're gonna do this, then you're gonna do that, then you're gonna do this, then you're gonna be a millionaire, right? But even just by creating this space, you may just get the next step that you're supposed to do, and then the next step, and then the next step. And then before you know it, you've created the life of your dreams your way. Because I think like when we start our own businesses, we do start it because we don't want to do things someone else's way. We don't want to work for someone else and be told what to do. But then so many entrepreneurs, they get in their business and they want to find a coach that's going to give them the exact template, the exact words to use. And then when it doesn't work, they're like, well, why is it not working? And it's because we're actually supposed to do things our own way. Like for every single one of us, like our unique energy and what makes us, like that's our superpower. But like you said, we've become so disconnected from it. I feel like just the patriarchy, this kind of really hustle mentality, bro marketing, all of these things make us just feel like we just constantly need to be doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and following someone else's templates. And I'm not saying that something like marketing is not important in business, but I feel like every woman listening, you also need to carve out time to have a spiritual practice, carve out time for a ceremony, carve out time to actually reconnect with your intuition. And all of a sudden, you'll have so much more clarity about what you're supposed to do. And that's also where healing the witch wound comes in. Because sometimes before you heal the witch wound, and I mean, this happened for me too. Before I started my mystery school, I was getting nudges from it for 2 years before I did it. For 2 years. It was like even coming to me in my dreams. And I just didn't feel like I was good enough to do it. I didn't feel like, and it was through healing that, then I was like, wait, why? Like, why did I wait so long? Of course I'm good enough. Of course I can do this. So by healing the witch wound, you can also then often actually feel comfortable taking action on the intuitive guidance that comes through instead of just brushing it off or just kind of, not listening to it. And it's not to say that you don't feel the fear, but you're become brave enough where you do it anyway. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And it gets easier over time. Maybe not easier in the sense that the fear isn't there, but then you have evidence of yourself having faced the fear, overcome it, and gotten somewhere amazing to where you are today. And so taking that next step, you already kind of know that, all right, when I do face this fear and overcome it, good things happen. So you're almost setting yourself up with all of this evidence to be able to continue to move forward when fear shows up again, because again, it's always going to be there no matter where, like the next level and the next level.
Yes, totally. And we need to, I love that you mentioned that. So my approach is kind of unique because very much I teach about the sacred feminine, help women. We do energy work. We do really beautiful deep work, but I also am a bit of a nerd when it comes to subconscious mind because I am trained a hypnotherapist. I am trained in NLP and all these things. And I'm like, we are spiritual, multifaceted beings, but we are in a human body with a human brain. And like you said, like having that evidence helps our subconscious mind and our brain to like trust ourselves a little more. And the more that you do it, like you said, it gets easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned ceremony and a ritual a few times. And I know, this is going to seem counterintuitive because I know we just said you really want to go with what feels good to you, not take someone else's step by step. But I'm just curious, can you actually share what does a ritual to heal the visibility wound? What does it look like? What can it look like? And which one what did you do to really be able to heal your fear of being seen? Just so that if anyone's listening, if it does feel good to you and you want to give it a try, then this could be it.
Yeah. So totally. So I think it's different to be like following someone's exact step by steps versus having some kind of just structure so you can flow. So, if you've never sat in ceremony before, if you've never done any kind of ritual before, like of course it's helpful to have guidance. And it can be helpful to do it with someone kind of holding that energetic space for you and guiding you. And then as your journey gets deeper, you can always create your own and be like, oh, actually, I didn't really like that, but I really like this. So I don't know if I have to be honest, I don't have just one specific ritual that can say I did this one ritual and everything changed. Because I do this so much and because I've been doing it for years and like I sit in ceremony every week. So, however, one that I will say that was really helpful is actually working with the full moon energy, because a full moon energy is a perfect time to let things go. And with healing the witch wound, it's like we've been carrying this energetic weight, this crippling fear that can really like control us and rule our life. And we're saying, I'm ready to let those go now. So working with the full moon kind of essentially can just, I feel like it like supercharges our intentions. So I'm very into working with the seasons of the earth and kind of elements of nature, because I feel like we are nature, and the moon, it controls the tides, it controls the water, and we're something like 80% water. So the moon really does control us so much more than we realize. So working with the full moon, and from the top of my head, I don't want to give it to you in the wrong order. It's simple, but it's so powerful. But what I can do is I'm gonna give it to you, for everyone who's listening can download it as a free guide. So it's beautiful. I've made it, and you do have the step-by-step directions. Okay. And you don't need a lot of things. I think the only things you're gonna need is to, if you can, print it out, because there's some really deep journaling questions there, and you can change those questions to be specific to your visibility fears. So you're going to need a candle, something to smoke cleanse with. So like whether that's Palo Santo or favorite incense to kind of clear your space. I do recommend doing it at night once it's dark. If you can see the full moon, great. So if you can see through a window, or if maybe before the ritual or after the ritual, if you can, where you are, going to stand outside and just connecting with the energy of the moon. So either before or after, that's just gonna intensify it even more. And then the exact step-by-step kind of, it's all in the guidebook. So I don't want to tell it to you wrong, because I made it a little while back. But that is one of my favorite things that I do. And that specific ritual, I sit with it probably at least like 3 times a year, because I do other ones, but just specifically working with the full moon. And also, I think in the guide, I mentioned that you can use any candle, but if you're specifically wanting to release ancestral visibility wounds, so like if there has been anyone in your ancestry that actually got burnt at the stake, and that's something we're probably never going to find out because going so far back, but it's very likely, if you're someone who's spiritual, if you're someone who's listened to this podcast, it's very likely that someone at some point in your ancestry was persecuted for this, because I feel like these rememberings get passed down to us. So burning a black candle can be really, really powerful for releasing it, like releasing that ancestral kind of like almost like karma, being like, no, like I'm going to be the cycle breaker of my lineage and we're not doing this anymore. Like we're releasing this now. I'm choosing a different story. So that's a little tip that I don't think is in the guide, but otherwise they can get the full step-by-step, beautifully made by just clicking a button and downloading it straight to their inbox.
Okay, amazing. I love that. And thank you for that tip. I feel like we got an insider tip here with the black candle. I love it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And you've shared so many just amazing insights with us on really healing the visibility wound. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
I would say for anyone who's listening, I challenge you to just be scared and do it anyway. And like, if you're listening, if you could just dedicate yourself for 30 days to just showing up a little more boldly, to letting yourself be a little more visible, and just holding that in your body bit by bit, because it does open up your capacity. Like we do energetically have to prepare for. So for example, I remember the very first time I posted something and it went viral, there was like a lot of kind of like uneasiness and anxiety in my body because I wasn't used to it. So if you dedicate time space for 30 days for every day, just to be a little bolder, a little more visible, just to kind of, it's probably going to feel really uncomfortable. You may even cringe at yourself, but do it anyway, because then you're building that capacity for visibility to, and more of your aligned people, your aligned clients will start to come in. So pairing that with a full moon ritual, oh, that's gonna be really, really powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like in during those 30 days, keep an evidence journal too every time,
Yes.
every day goes by so that you're building that evidence for yourself. And I do feel like, I mean, in my experience, even showing up and feeling the fear, but getting past it anyways and putting it out there, I do feel like we do find our people quickly and we do get, positive feedback almost immediately after putting something out there. So I'm curious, I didn't ask you this before, but when you did get past that fear, put out the podcast anyways, like, did you start to receive that positive feedback to remind you that, like, okay, I'm on the right path, I'm meant to be doing this?
Yes. Oh my goodness. If I hadn't brought that out, so I've worked with hundreds of women, and if I hadn't brought that out, that wouldn't have happened. And the amount of messages that I received when someone listens to something being like, it felt like you're talking to my soul, or like, thank you so much for bringing this out. It's exactly what I needed to hear. And something even else happened that was so interesting. Some of my old friends and like high school friends who were not witchy or spiritual in the slightest. And maybe some of the people that I was even nervous to do this in front, because I don't know, I think sometimes, we have those things, feel like, oh, what will the people that know me, like sometimes that can be scarier than strangers because we're becoming and allowing ourselves to become something maybe they didn't know, even though maybe, like I said, like for me, I've always been that way, but I hid it from everyone. So to them, they would have been like, whoa, what is happening? She's changing. And there's definitely some nervousness there, but some of those people actually reached out to me asking questions, being curious, being like, so tell me more like about manifestation, or like what can I do, or how can I go deeper? And I remember being like, that's so, so cool, because by me kind of sharing some of my gifts and some of my knowledge that I've collected over the years, even the people that I really thought would not understand it or be into it, it's like opening up their mind. And that was like a very, yeah, that was like a very, very cool moment to realize that, okay, maybe all these fears really were just all in my head.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I experienced, similar too with my podcast and having people from my past reach out and say, like, thank you for your positivity, or even asking questions about, self-image manifestation. So it really is incredible. And I do feel like there's been a change in the world energetically right now too. And a lot of people are being more open and receptive to more of this like new age information manifestation. So I do feel like it's a good time to really start sharing more because people really are seeking that information too.
Totally. Like people are craving it, I think. I think a lot of people are realizing that the old ways don't work anymore. So like for me personally, when I first built my first business, I'm also a professional photographer, and that was my first business. And when I first started that business, I was very much trying to build it the traditional way. And I had burned out without much success. And it was only when I started incorporating really like conscious manifestation and learning about it, healing the visibility wounds, healing my scarcity wounding, sitting in ritual. It was like all of a sudden the clients started to flow, and yet I was doing way less. So it's just incredible. And I think people are realizing that kind of the old way of doing things, especially for us as a woman, like we're not built to hustle 24/7. It's just not sustainable anymore. They're wanting a different way. I feel like we have this longing of almost like reconnecting with this really, I know we're calling it new age, but a lot of this wisdom is actually super, super ancient. And it's actually like we're just ready to reconnect and remember.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's remembering also like what this existence is, and everything truly is energy. And so when we do take the time to align our energy, of course things are going to happen for
Yeah,
us and we're going to attract the results. Like everything is energy anyways.
exactly. But it's like it can be so cool when people that have never experienced that, then they kind of just open up their mind just a little bit. Like actually my husband is a perfect example. So he's married to a priestess witch, but for the longest time, we've been together for a very long time, been together for 14 years, and he was not spiritual in the slightest. Like he thought it was just all a bunch of mumbo jumbo until it's very interesting. The more that I accepted it within myself and I was starting to come out and, started actually coaching on the other women and teaching it, it was kind of like he started asking me more questions about it. And then I would just kind of like give him very much like beginner things and be like, okay, like visualize this. And then he'd come in and be like, I can't believe it, but it worked. He'd be like, I'm like, okay, well, visualize getting this exact bonus in your job. And then he'd come in and be like, it happened. Tell me more. Just like little by little. Or like he wanted this one specific grill. He was like, I really would like to get this grill. The next day, we're driving home from, I think, a dinner with friends, and a neighbor put out this exact grill that he wanted to be like for free outside of their house because they just upgraded, like in almost new like condition. And he was like, this is blowing my mind. He was like, what is this? I'm like, this is manifestation, babe. Like, welcome to the other side. So it's just, yeah, everything is energy. And it's so cool to watch people discover it.
Right? Oh my gosh, I love that. That is so good.
Yeah, honestly. And now we manifest things together, which is even better.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Deimante, thank you so much for everything that you shared. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you if they want to connect?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. And you have such a beautiful energy. You're a great host. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
So I'm also known as Priestess in Jeans. So I'm on Instagram at Priestess in Jeans, on Instagram, on Threads. I also have a podcast called Priestess in Jeans. You can check it out.
Amazing. All of the links will be in the show notes of this episode. So be sure to check it out. And I just have to say, I love the name Priestess in Jeans. Like, I love it. Good one on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like, I can't really take credit. I feel like my guides kind of told me. They were like, yeah. I remember I was like, after I gave birth to my daughter, and I was like, I feel like I need to rebrand, and I don't know what to call myself. And I feel like I just kept getting this intuitive message being like, you're the priestess in jeans. You're a priestess in jeans. And I was like, okay, I think I need to take it.
Yeah, no, I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating and review. It'll help me grow the show by reaching a wider audience. And if you'd like to continue this conversation, join me inside my private Facebook group, Just Launch. This is a great place where we can connect on a more personal level. You can find the link in the show notes.